We are back. Mm-hmm. On time. Steve Bannon. Now, I'm just a little confused. I know he was a part of Trump's cabinet the first go round. I think he was doing a book or something. I think he sat with Epstein as well when he was doing all that. Oh, for 28, 28. I think he done got off into some more dirty business, and Trump maybe have led him to believe that they are covered. I'm not sure. But right now, I know he's scared as hell. And we need to tap in and see why. Don't you think? Let's try to get a grip on what's going on. Cause he ready to, he like, come on. Yeah. Let's listen.
You were coming on the show. Everybody wanted me to ask you about this documentary on Epstein that were you said you were working on it and you had 15 hours of interviews with him, but it never got released. What happened to it?
I haven't finished it, so hopefully it's going to be a multi-part. I would hope at Netflix or something like this. It's really going to show. It's called the working title is called The Monster. He's a product of the elite.
The monster.
Everything I think has been put out about him is not exactly the truth. Now, hopefully, they're going to release all this information they've got. I think Pam Bondi has it, or the intelligence community has it. They should be releasing, or Christy Nome has it, whether the flight logs are, all those things. So I've got about 12 hours of interviews with him, 12 to 15 hours of interviews that I think will be pretty shocking about how this guy came from nowhere. Because I think he's born in like Coney Island. How he came from nowhere to go to the absolute highest levels of global elite, right? And who he knew and who he financed. He's one of the leading underwriters of scientific experiments in the world, and a lot of that's dealing with this thing called transhumanism. So I think it's if I ever get it done, or when I get it done, it's going to be quite fascinating. But it's a project I'm working on with my filmmaking team.
And so are you surprised there hasn't been a bigger call for an investigation into his death? Because nobody believes he killed himself, but that's what the government tells us.
Oh, I think he was murdered. I don't think there's any doubt.
And
I think his attorneys think he definitely was murdered, and these guys are pretty steady guys. I don't think there's any doubt he was taken out. To me, personally, I don't think there's any doubt he was taken out. I think he was murdered or executed, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
I have no belief that he killed himself.
So do you think Trump's going to want to get to the bottom of that? What happened? I mean, it was obvious they just let him be executed. They sent a guy in and they killed him in prison. And so what do you think Trump's going to want to? I mean, we need someone in power to try to find out what happened. Do you think Trump
took him out?
Pam Bondi, first off, BOP is something I'm helping since I was a convict already on a misdemeanor. Spent 4 months. I'm working with Jared and Peter Navarro and the others that were jailed.
So he stayed. He was the prison.
President Trump's time. We're working on getting new Bureau of Prison leadership. Hopefully reformers, and not hopefully, we'll get reformers. The thing has to be reformed. The jail or the prison where first off, BOP is something I'm helping since I was a convict already on a misdemeanor. Spent 4 months. I'm working with Jared and Peter Navarro and the others that were jailed or in prison in President Trump's time. We're working on getting new Bureau of Prison leadership. Hopefully reformers, and not hopefully, we'll get reformers. The thing has to be reformed. The jail or the prison where he was held temporarily in New York was a known the hellhole, and with horrible people running it, etc.
It's always been like that.
are filthy. People should not have to be treated like animals. Although he was not a good guy, very bad guy, but you still a human being. You got to treat him like human beings. It was terrible. But I have no belief. To me, there's zero probability that he killed himself. I think he was executed. And remember, Bill Barr ran the Justice Department. You had
Yep.
a bunch of holdovers and careerists running the BOP. I just think it's got to be investigated. Yeah, I think President Trump will, or I think Bureau of Prisons will. Pam Bondi and other people they're going to associate. I think they'll turn over and start to have a major investigation, which I think they have to. They've already said that they had some sort of investigation into it, but I don't believe it.
Come see us on tour in Dallas, Austin, Baltimore, Hartford.
Yeah, right. Hold on. I don't believe nothing Trump is involved in. Nothing. Who are you afraid of, sir? Why are you crying? That's your wolf.
The Epstein thing remains.
We know
too
he
hot
knows
to
something,
handle.
huh?
So are you and Bannon still on speakers?
Well, we're not actually, since I wrote about his relationship with Epstein. So it didn't really bother him that I managed to get him fired from the White House and expelled from Trump world. But the Epstein thing remains too
You
hot
got
to
him
handle.
fired?
I did write about that, and I was there. Bannon had this idea that he could rescue. Well, first thing, just as a bit of background, these guys met each other after Bannon exited the White House, and they both were united by their relationship with Trump, who they obsessed.
So Trump, the guy who's saying, oh Lord, what are we gonna do? We all going to jail if Trump lose or not. Because you remember he was saying he was going to be reelected in 2028. That's out. He kept pushing that. Now he lost. Now he crying. They all going to prison. What are we going to do? So now we finding out. I told you this guy be knowing a lot. That Bannon met Epstein through Trump. But when? Hold up. And when did Bannon go to prison?
First thing, just as a bit of background, these guys met each other after Bannon exited the White House, and they both were united by their relationship with Trump, who they obsessed about and hated, and couldn't understand how Trump was in the White House. And they would spend hours and hours and hours trying to digest this central fact in their in both of their lives. But then when Epstein got in increasing trouble and was then headed to his ultimate and fateful denouement, Steve Bannon had this idea that Epstein should go on 60 Minutes and do a mea culpa, that would save him. And then Steve Bannon took it upon himself to tell Epstein how to do this, and brought in cameras to stage this in practice sessions. And I wrote about this, and Steve did not forgive me.
Hold on.
Write about that, and I was there. Bannon had this idea. White House and expelled from Trump world, but the Epstein thing remains too hot to handle. I did write about that, and I was there. Bannon had this idea that he could rescue. Well, first thing, just as a bit of background, these guys met each other after Bannon exited the White House, and they both were united by their relationship with Trump, who they obsessed about and hated and couldn't understand how Trump was in the White House. And they would spend hours and hours and hours trying to digest this central fact in their in both of their lives. But then when Epstein got in increasing trouble and was then headed to his ultimate and fateful denouement, Steve
Hey,
Bannon
Vicky.
had this idea that Epstein should go on 60 Minutes and do a mea culpa, that would save him. And then Steve Bannon took it upon himself to tell Epstein how to do this, and brought in cameras to stage this in practice sessions. And I wrote about this, and Steve did not forgive me.
Future is for the way women think.
The way women think.
That's correct.
Is that not a sop because of all the depravity you've done against young women? Your new sop is that their women's thinking is the future?
No, I've always believed that women would be, in fact, be able to take over. I'm a firm believer and supporter of Time's Up. The greatest threat to people put in solitary confinement is they try to kill themselves.
Thank
Imagine
you,
that.
Vicky.
You're only in a room for 24 hours, you start to go crazy.
Now, I don't know if you've seen that before, but that is a trailer for a movie that Steve Bannon claimed he was making, obviously with Jeffrey Epstein. You can see him interviewing him there, titled The Monsters, Epstein's Life Among the Global Elite. So it's The Monsters, but to be clear, he's not the monster. He's just talking about the monsters, which is strange. But anyway, as years have passed since the trailer was originally released, people are starting to wonder if he was actually making this movie to profile these monsters, or if there was some other motivation that Steve Bannon was actually operating under. Bannon apparently recorded over 15 hours of interview footage with Jeffrey Epstein for that. That is an incredible amount of time sitting down and talking with this guy. And the video was recorded in the months leading up to Epstein's arrest in July 2019. So this is as there's more and more pressure for something to be done, for there to be an indictment, more details are coming out about the allegations against them. Obviously, there had been stories about this for years at this point, but this was during the critical period where things are really heating up. And as I said, Bannon said it was for The Monsters, Epstein's Life Among the Global Elite. The movie never actually came out, and those who reportedly knew about the footage found the claim dubious, that this is what it was designed to be for. Another explanation given was that Bannon was helping Epstein improve his public image as allegations of sex trafficking became louder and louder. Obviously, we would need to see much more of the footage, especially how it was being edited, to know what the motivation was. But it is interesting that, like, considering where the Republican Party would end up going talking about this stuff, and we're probably a year or two into QAnon and all of this hyper focus on sexualization of kids and the conspiracy theories about Waymo and Etsy and all that, that if he was if the design was, I'm going to help you get out in front of this, then I think that would be pretty damning. And you might wonder, well, why would he do that? Now, obviously, they're both wealthy people, but if Epstein does actually have information about other monsters in the global elite, and if some of them might be people that Steve Bannon maybe theoretically knows, then if you could help him save his image and evade accountability, then maybe those names never come out. We are very much in the territory of total speculation here, and we might very well never know what the footage was designed to do. But it's interesting at the very least.
It's definitely fascinating. I don't know. I've been around this floor for a while. I've heard people on various shows say stuff like this about other things, but I will apply how I've seen, ladies and gentlemen, how conservatives respond to stories for you as I apply it to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, this is how they would do it. Listen, I'm waiting for all this kind of information to come in. I don't know what happened, what's on Epstein's island. I know it's sick. I know it's depraved. I know it's murderous. I know these poor girls had to go through stuff, but I don't know whether Jeff Bannon attended these events. But that said, there's something in my gut that tells me
Okay,
there's
Vicky,
more
thank
to it.
you.
There's more
Thank
to it, and
you.
what I'm seeing, I'm just
Hey,
seeing these
Natural in
photos of Donald
Orleans.
Trump hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm seeing manifests. I don't read the articles, but I know that the headlines say Donald Trump and there's a manifest in Jeffrey Epstein's island. I know there's a bunch of sick, depraved stuff that these elitists are doing on those islands. And I know that Bannon and Trump are very close. I think it's very probable / possible, maybe not probable, but possible, probably possible, that Jeffrey Epstein, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, global cabal having sex with each other and children at the same time on buffaloes, winged steeds. It's horrible.
Ooh, thank you.
Back to
What
you.
he just say?
That's what it's like.
I was
walking around here,
seeing
by the
this
way.
mystery
Did you hear
box,
half of,
and
his
he said
iHeartRadio
something, and I was
podcast?
like, woo.
It
And
is
what did he say?
but I know that the headlines say Donald Trump and there's a manifest in Jeffrey Epstein's island. I know there's a bunch of sick stuff, but I don't know
Thank
whether
you.
Bannon attended these events. But that said, there's something in my gut that tells me there's more to it. There's more to it, and what I'm seeing, I'm just seeing these photos of Donald Trump hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm seeing manifests. I don't read the articles, but I know that the headlines say Donald Trump and there's a manifest in Jeffrey Epstein's island. I know there's a bunch of sick, depraved stuff that these elitists are doing on those islands. And I know that Bannon and Trump are very close. I think it's very probable / possible, maybe not probable, but possible, probably possible, that Jeffrey Epstein, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, global cabal having sex with each other and children at the same time.
I thought I heard him say that. I thought I heard him say each other and kids. Wow. Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God. It just keeps getting deeper and deeper.
That Jeffrey Epstein, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, global cabal having sex with each other and children at the same time on buffaloes, winged steeds. It's horrible.
That's why that booty be leaking. Janet, let that be the reason. That shit be rolling down his legs. Say he done lost all feeling back there. Say he loose as a goose. He no longer have butt muscles.
That's what it's like walking around here,
He
by the way.
can't stop that shit from coming out. Oh my God. How nasty. Thank you, Janet. Thank you. He said a mouthful. And he looked like he meant every word he said. Oh my God.
Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. This is how they would do it. Listen, I'm waiting for all this kind of information to come in. I don't know what happened, what's on Epstein's island. I know it's sick. I know it's depraved. I know it's murderous. I know these poor girls had to go through stuff, but I don't know whether Bannon attended these events. But that said, there's something in my gut that tells me there's more to it. There's more to it, and what I'm seeing, I'm just seeing these photos of Donald Trump hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm seeing manifests. I don't read the articles, but I know that the headlines say Donald Trump and there's a manifest in Jeffrey Epstein's island. I know there's a bunch of sick, depraved stuff that these elitists are doing on those islands. And I know that Bannon and Trump are very close. I think it's very probable / possible, maybe not probable, but possible, probably possible, that Jeffrey Epstein, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, global cabal having sex with each other and children at the same time on buffaloes, winged steeds. It's horrible. Back to you. That's what it's like walking around here, by the way. If you just hear half of like an iHeartRadio podcast, it is so horrible. Well, I
right?
like iHeartRadio. I don't necessarily like. I'm sorry. It's that there's an iHeartRadio spinning thing, and that's a location where everybody comes in and totally, and they have our own shows. Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned on the show yesterday that I was just walking past and I heard Charlie Kirk say that last Saturday was your 9/11. I don't know who he was talking to, and then the person that was on the panel with him said that's incredibly profound, and I just thought I don't know the context. It's not. Don't think it was. That's they're just, and then like there's people that I'll hear all day. They'll get done with their show and come and code switch to talking lib to me. Oh,
Who is this guy? He is funny as heck.
so to speak. So to speak. And look, partially it's because it is easy to turn it off if it's an act. Yeah. If you're not really saying what you believe, then you can be totally nice. And also, by the way, one of the things that's always bothered me about you have people who go off and do their content and say wicked, insane, radical things and attack people and demonize people, but they can have nice conversations with you and they can agree a little bit. You know why they can do that? Because it doesn't really matter. Like saying we need to talk more, we need to debate more, and we just need to. You know what that does? It theoretically continues the status quo that they're comfortable with. Well, then there's no urgency to change things when you're winning right now. But then, and maybe I've done it here, I don't know. But like, then they'll go off. Like when Charlie Kirk was here, his guy was saying we gotta go, and I said, and he was like 3 minutes to me, and I turned around and I started a clock and I said 3 minutes, and Charlie Kirk's sitting here. It's like, oh, it seems like you want us to wrap. And I literally just turned around and go, Charlie, you wanted the 3 minutes. You've got the heart out. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. You wanted the 3 minutes. It's a small thing. And he's going to go and get like a little soundbite from here and use it cynically. I'm sure. I'm sure of it. He's going to do it. I don't know the. But he's saying stuff like, you're not a real man if you vote for Joe Biden. It's like, what are you talking about? Well, no, but that's the thing. He wasn't saying that here. He wasn't saying that here. He comes here and he steps back. It was, and they go to their audience and they just the conversation. Yeah. Anyway, it's chumpy. Well, and it's so great, though, dude. He looks, I love it. Depends on the environment. I love it. They're like, these are our alpha dogs, and they're just chuddy puddles. Okay. I want to turn back to this. Okay, so, or actually, do we have time? We have 5 minutes. Yeah, do it. He's saying we only have 3 minutes, and we have to go. I want to make sure that we get to our last story, actually. And look, we could go into the established ties between Bannon and Epstein. They were friends back in 2017 or whatever. We're talking about maintaining a relationship with a person over the course of literally years as more and more terrible stuff is coming out about them. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it was just intended to be a documentary or if it was supposed to be a rehabilitation tour or whatever. But I think I would get uncomfortable with the person that I've known as more and more of this horrendous stuff is coming out. It didn't seem to bother him. And he is one of the literal he's one of the avatars of this movement, with sexualization of children and sex slavery and sex trafficking being one of its like core components. Yeah. You'd think he would have been a little bit uncomfortable. In the same way that you might have expected that Donald Trump wouldn't have said of Ghislaine Maxwell, I'd wish her the best, or whatever.
Oh, this said the mafia, CIA, and Jeffrey Epstein worked together. Dang, I need to mark that one.
First up today.
Hold on, wasn't something, some type, the mafia came up not too long ago in something. Hold on. Holy shit. It says holy shit. The mafia. Let me go on down, see. Hold on. Didn't the mafia...
That Trump's disapproval rating has now hit a record high of 55%. As Donald Trump faces a growing pile of legal and ethical scandals, there's one thing that's been getting lost in all the noise. His actual policies are deeply, wildly unpopular. I feel like you probably know that watching this show. So unpopular, in fact, that Trump's disapproval rating has now hit a record high of 55%. That's according to a new Economist and YouGov poll. The drop comes amid growing backlash to the administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case, but the broader trend is clear. This week, Good Trouble protests named for the late Congressman John Lewis have mobilized at more than 1,500 sites across all 50 states as organizers call out what they describe as a sweeping assault on civil rights.
Y'all, please double tap the face of your
And
phone.
that energy
Get the
is
likes
showing
up for
in the
me,
numbers.
please.
A new CNN poll shows Democrats are significantly more energized than Republicans heading into next year's midterm. 72% of Democrats say they're, quote, extremely motivated to vote. That's a full 22-point advantage over Republicans. Meanwhile, Trump's legislative agenda is tanking in public opinion. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans oppose his so-called Big Beautiful Bill, thanks in large part to its deep cuts to Medicaid and other essential programs, and the GOP knows it. Just this week, Vice President J.D. Vance was in Pennsylvania asking Republicans to, quote, talk to your friends about the bill. Let your buddies know.
Let your buddies know. To get on the blue
You
wave.
probably don't want to, which, let's be honest, is not where you want to be with your signature legislation.
Hey, Tammy.
Von Hilliard and Tara Setmeyer are back with us. Von, I want to start with some of that polling. One, this CNN poll that finds Trump's approval rating among Republicans and independents. So first, 88% with Republicans, 32% with independents. So he feels pretty good there. But then when you look at his immigration approval also, CNN poll, down 10 points since March. 51% in March, 42% of people approve of how he's handling immigration in July. How is I mean, I've heard them say this over and over and over again to my face, and not that, the polls don't matter, they're fake polls. If he doesn't like it, they're not real polls. But how are they actually looking at these numbers? Because they see it too, and they understand there's a problem.
Oh, this
So far,
time,
they're not
yeah.
reversing course.
Right.
Which I think is telling in its own way. Because this is a president and an operation around him that feels like they are able to control the numbers. They don't have a history of being overly reactive. And they double down, they make the case or make an explanation. And in this case,
They
just
attack,
this
attack,
week,
attack.
they attack, right. And in this
But this time, BB mad, because he wasn't supposed to take over that West Bank. So he not approving hacking into a system for the votes, and Putin pissed because of that Black Hawk, that helicopter that he was making deals with Ukraine. So the two countries that would is known for playing with it or sabotaging or switching numbers around, Russia and Israel, both of them pissed off at it right about now. Remember that. He ain't had no help. He got too cocky, too arrogant, and too greedy. He was trying to make deals with Russia, but was making another one with Ukraine, and he was making deals with BB and backdoored him with Qatar.
case this week, I mean, we're seeing ICE agents still going into Home Depot parking lots and chasing people. And I think most Americans are familiar with going to Home Depot and knowing that people are looking for work. Right. Human beings are looking for work. And so I think that the images that we have seen over the last 3 months tell a very real story of people living in this country who are running from the Trump administration. Yeah. That's very different when people see visually
the impact of policy versus in 2024 the idea of mass deportation and the idea that we're going to get rid of criminals, because in this case it wasn't a targeting of, right, for example, using the Home Depot example, it's not a targeting of specific people, it is just going and hoping that you catch criminals.
Right.
You know, Tara, to pick up on something Vaughn just said about the President Trump and his administration don't have a history of being overly reactive, and I want to pull up that poll number, that polling that Eugene just brought up about Republicans and their approval of the president's job at 88%. Does that explain why the president and his administration aren't being overly reactive? Because that's the number he most cares about. So he couldn't care less what the overall country thinks about what he's doing. He only cares about what his supporters, what Republicans think about what he's doing. And right now at 88%, there's another poll with him at 90% approval among Republicans. That's what matters to him.
Yeah, 90% now. This must be old dated. I mean, what's the date on this?
Now we're talking. It's time to share. Every page, every doc, everything's right there. Now you can do that with
Oh
the
Lord,
Acrobat.
that commercial's so long.
The police officer at the scene told me to
wow.
never sue the
But it's still down from where it had been before. And even Steve Bannon admitted that if you have a 1 or 2% shift in MAGA support for Donald Trump or Republican support for Donald Trump, that Democrats could win 40 seats in the House in the midterms. The swing districts are what the people inside, the strategists inside the White House, understand that those are the districts that matter. It doesn't matter whether Marjorie Taylor Greene wins her district by 80 points or 75 points. It matters if in places like Pennsylvania 8, which is where Donald Trump deployed J.D. Vance this week, which is a swing district that a Republican won, took out a Democratic incumbent by about 1 percentage point. That's why J.D. Vance went there to sell this bill, because he knows that those are the districts that Democrats need to win back. And those are the districts they need to hold if they want to keep control of the House. That's why the Seneca Project created an ad called Big Beautiful Betrayal, going after Donald Trump and the Republicans for voting for this bill. There's nothing beautiful about this bill. And the more that people find out about it, and the more that Republicans have to defend the 17 million people losing health care, grandma or mom getting kicked out of her nursing home, the hungry children losing food assistance, ICE agents, masked ICE Gestapo agents getting more funding than any other law enforcement agency in the history of the United States, now getting more funding at the expense of the American people. And oh, by the way, it's enriching the billionaire buddies of Donald Trump. That, the more people know about that, the more they don't like it, including Republicans. Fox News' own polls leading up to the passage of the bill showed that less than 50% of Republicans thought that this bill would help their families. The CNN poll that just came out said 57% of Americans think it's bad for the country if Republicans control the House and the White House. So these are not good numbers for the administration. So they're trying to go on offense and set the narrative now. We said at the Seneca Project, no, this is an opening for Democrats to set the narrative now. Get ahead of it. Go on offense now. Make the Republicans defend what's beautiful about everything that they're doing in this. It's not. It's a betrayal. And you do it now. You don't set that narrative 6 months from now. You don't wait until, the midterms are coming. No, the midterms have already started. And Republicans are very good at trying to snatch that narrative and get ahead of it. And we decided, look, if the Democrats aren't going to do it, then the Seneca Project is going to step into the void and do it for them and show them how to win.
And Democrats were, we had the conversation at the beginning of this year. What are Democrats doing? Are they getting out there? That's not a question now.
Right.
They have very clear policies that they can point to, and instead of just saying, fear what Donald Trump is going to be, they...
Hold on. Let's see this one.
So, not gonna lie, this video was a lot of fun to make because, believe it or not, I don't actually know that much about advanced math. Like, obviously, you have to.
Which I called for yesterday, appointed special he should appoint a special prosecutors.
He sound like he been scared to me, though.
Steve Bannon and Elon Musk war of words is intensifying. The ex-Trump advisor is demanding that all Epstein files be released. Take a look.
They have to go to the court and demand and unseal the sealed evidence in Epstein. It starts there. Then bundle everything together you got, sealed and unsealed, and release it all. Or, which I called for yesterday, appointed special he should appoint a special prosecutor, special counsel now for the 2020 election and everything after that. If DOJ can't move off the dime, and the FBI can't move off the dime, there should be a special counsel to go through everything and release it all.
So Bannon's insistence follows Elon Musk's claim that the War Room host is on the convicted pedophile's infamous client list. Musk took to X Tuesday, posting, quote, Bannon is in the Epstein files. So Bannon's insistence follows Elon Musk's claim that the War Room host is on the convicted pedophile's infamous client list. Musk took to X Tuesday, posting, quote, Bannon is in the Epstein files. A MAGA meltdown ensued after Trump's Department of Justice and FBI released a memo Monday declaring the Epstein files don't exist. The memo is in direct contrast with AG Pam Bondi's previous claims that
why is he panicking? He gotta be
Epstein with, quote, children and porn.
In reaction to the feud, Cat Turd and right-wing X account posted, quote, I'm going to say it one more time. Elon Musk said that Steve Bannon and Donald Trump are on the Epstein list. That means Elon Musk has seen the official Epstein list. He says he knows, so why won't Elon tell us who's on the Epstein list? Elon could clear this up right now. What is he waiting for?
Angry staffer X account posted, quote, the most important thing about Bannon and Elon fighting is that the Trump administration is covering up the Epstein files.
This is interesting. I mean, obviously, this has sparked a lot of backlash from the Trump base. He did promise to release the Epstein files. All we got was that phase 1 binder where the influencers were holding it up and looking all excited, and it turned out there was no new information in it, and they got, right? But where's phase 2? Is there even a phase 2? Pam Bondi saying in that Fox News interview months ago that she had the client list on her desk and was in the process of reviewing it. The Daily Caller reported yesterday that, according to senior administration officials, that Bondi did have a tranche of Epstein-related files on her desk, but she had told that the DOJ absolutely overpromised how much direct evidence they had after him for the child sex trafficking. I think that's a very distinct possibility, and one that when Pam Bondi was asked about it, said she had never heard of that before. She had.
I don't want to hear all that Pam Bondi
entire
stuff.
IC, because that would obviously be a huge reckoning in American culture for us to know that
I'm
they were
trying to
turning a
get
blind eye on these
to
horrific crimes.
Bannon. Why is Bannon really panicking? Why is he really freaking out about they all going to jail? And he's already went to jail, sound like, for being Trump advisor the first go around. So, and it ain't just about, it's about the winning, what happened on Tuesday, but why is he putting himself in jail? I'm trying to get caught up on that part.
We're Maurice's, and we're here to give you that styled feeling.
Yeah, he on the list, but like Trump is trying to hold it. Oh, wow.
Myself included.
This is a doozy of a clip. The clip I'm getting ready to show you is Steve Bannon on a stage, behind a podium, with a microphone in his face, recording.
Now, I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included.
This is a doozy of a clip.
It sure is.
The clip I'm getting ready to show you is Steve Bannon on a stage, behind a podium, with a microphone in his face, recording what he's saying, and a camera recording what he's saying, admitting that he's committing crimes for Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Admitting. He's already admitted many times that there is a plot to get Donald Trump into office a third time. In clear, sheer, wanton violation of the United States Constitution and the 22nd Amendment, which forbids someone for 3 terms in the White House. There's all kinds of things that he's been pardoned by Donald Trump or sentence commuted. Like, he has committed crimes. He has been brought to trial. There have been cases against him for defrauding donors of the Build the Wall thing. All kinds of stuff has gone on with Steve Bannon. So it's not surprising to me that he is here admitting that if Democrats come back into power, he's going to prison. The question it just comes to mind, it's just a natural, the water flowing downhill is just the natural thing that you would ask is, why would you go to prison? What crimes have you committed
Let's go.
that you will be investigated?
Y'all hit the like button, please.
And found guilty, sentenced for.
Yes.
What are the crimes?
That's,
I think we all should be asking that question.
Absolutely.
It's not just Steve Bannon who would be in this situation. Also, the other thing, maybe I'll talk about this at the end. I'll talk about that at the end. Watch this clip from Steve Bannon admitting to crimes in the service of Donald Trump.
Now, I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included. They're not going to stop. They're getting more and more and more radical. And we have to counter that. And what do we have to counter it with? We have to counter it with more action, more intense action, more urgency. We're burning daylight. If you look across every...
Now, what did they do that was radical? Other than I play y'all? I mean, other than people getting out and voting? What do you mean? Why do they have to make it sound extreme? Like, what was radically done? Nothing. I'ma say we just changed our prayers. I'ma say our blinders are off. And God is shutting down what y'all been getting away with. Cause ain't nobody been radical. But y'all, Trump, yeah, and y'all ICE agents. Yeah. Yeah, you extremely paranoid, sir. Real bad.
And what do we have to counter it with? We have to counter it with more action. More...
Maybe I'll talk about this at the end. I'll talk.
Some in this room are going to prison, myself included. They're not going to stop. They're getting more and more and more radical. And we have to counter that. And what do we have to counter it with? We have to counter it with more action, more intense action, more urgency. We're burning daylight. If you look across every aspect of this, we have to codify what President Trump has done by executive order.
Shooting apples. Oh! You know what'll fix that? New Fireball blazing apple. I was wrong. He's gonna die. But you gotta try this. It's like drinking 1,000 orchards. And he's dead. New Fireball blazing apple. Shoot it straight.
Right? We have to codify it. And people say, well, they're just going to be messing bills. Senate. We got to put aside these structural barriers and get on with it. President Trump today gave to the Senate when they came over for breakfast. Even Lindsey Graham, some of the guys that liked, and some of these institutions, I understand. This is a very tough decision to make. And you're going to see some people in the conservative movement that not in a million years, because I talked to him today, quite frankly, I had Hawley on the show this morning. Josh Hawley, and he's talking about it, and I'm trying to play the institution. Well, they called me up this afternoon and said, let's go through the 10 reasons we need to do it, and these are heavy hitters on what I would call the constitutional, limited government constitutionalist in our movement. And they're about to come out over the next couple of days and make this argument because it said, look, we have to understand that if we don't take this to the maximum, a maximalist strategy now with a sense of urgency, and in doing this, seize the institutions. If we don't do that now, we're going to lose this chance forever because you're never going to have another Trump, right? You're just not going to have it.
Look, when the atmosphere and the current reality of Democrats appointing people like Merrick Garland to be the Attorney General of the United States, if this is what we have to look forward to, nobody's getting prosecuted. He's not going to jail. They couldn't even get Donald Trump in jail, and there were clear crimes, enormous crimes that Donald Trump committed, violations of national security, absconding with national security secrets, attempting to overthrow the United States government by way of overturning a free and fair election. He tried to overthrow the government, and he didn't get prosecuted because Merrick Garland, a Democrat, wanted to appear. We want to appear unbiased. Merrick Garland put Republicans in charge of the prosecution of Hunter Biden. Tell me again how Steve Bannon's so afraid of going to prison, and ostensibly what he's suggesting is it will be improper. It will be weaponization. Now I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included. Why would that be, Steve Bannon? Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. The translation is they're guilty. They know they're guilty. That's what you can read into this. That he is broadcasting that he's committing crimes for Donald. The scary thing is we don't know exactly what those crimes are. Tell me again how Steve Bannon's so afraid of going to prison, and ostensibly what he's suggesting is it will be improper. It will be weaponization. Now I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included. Why would that be, Steve Bannon? Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. The translation is they're guilty. They know they're guilty. That's what you can read into this. That he is broadcasting.
They stealing.
That he's committing crimes for Donald Trump.
They funneling.
The scary thing is we don't know exactly what those crimes are yet. Because he does work in secret and in tandem with other groups like the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts' little outfit, that brought to us Project 2025 that 50% of is already almost put in place. They're firing thousands of federal workers. They are doing enormous, irreparable damage to this country. Maybe not irreparable literally, but it's going to take a generation to undo what was done in Donald Trump's just first 9 months. Because they are emboldened. And the reason they're emboldened, I was going to end, but here we are. The reason they're emboldened is because of feckless prosecutors and attorneys general like Merrick Garland. We need to handle these criminals like Brazil did with Bolsonaro, like South Korea did with their leader who attempted an insurrection against the government. We need to handle our lawbreakers who have power like any other criminal. Investigate, bring them to trial.
Did you come in speaking to me while you dropping somebody else's name, LB?
You send them to prison. That's what you do in a system that is based on the rule of law. And unfortunately for them, fortunately maybe because Democrats are so weak in this area so often, the Constitution lays it out. This is the rule of law. This is not just a roadmap. These are mandatory things that we must do as a civil society that is based on laws. You would think that Republicans, the same Republicans that pull this document out of their pocket that's all tattered, oh, I read this all the time, just like the family Bible. That's why it's so ready to fall apart, because it's so well used. The same Republicans that are those Republicans don't have anything to say about attempting to overthrow the United States government, usurping the will of the people, disenfranchising you, or attempting to do so. While Donald Trump pardons nearly 2,000 violent insurrectionists. I hope you do go to prison, Steve Bannon. And if I can have anything to do with that, somebody call me. I will step into my role. This
I hope so
non-attorney
too.
will help.
Cause he know
Anyway, what do you
more.
think? I invite you to...
He know way more than we know. And he know them both. And yeah. Why is he so afraid? Why is he crying out so early? Hold on.
Roku's self-serve ads platform. It's easier than ever with Ads Manager. Sign up today.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead, tonight.
Hey, y'all, hit the
This
like
don't-
button,
so wow.
please. Like, share, and subscribe. And please, do me a favor so I won't have to call you out. Don't come in here speaking of somebody else's name without hitting the like button and first greeting me. That is so rude and disrespectful. I'm not trying to hide anybody who content I do a reaction on. But do not speak to another content creator without speaking to me, because I will remove you. Just FYI. Okay? That's rude and disrespectful.
With the 100 hours that you have, is there anything in there? Like, let's just say I'm an interested buyer. I would be interested in buying the 100 hours that you have. I would be interested in buying Bannon's 15, 16 hours that he has, right? I would be interested in both of them.
Let me just add about Bannon's, what the hours that Bannon has is that Bannon, I wouldn't
We
buy
know
them
Wolf
from
know.
Bannon if I were you, because Bannon does not own them.
Oh, who owns them? I didn't know that.
Jeffrey Epstein paid for those tapes. That
Wow.
Bannon
So
did.
so the trust owns it.
Yes. Oh, yes. The estate owns it.
The state owns it. So wow. Okay. So that's a new fact. I didn't know the fact that that
PBD
recording is not. So
podcast. Shout
Bannon
out to
couldn't sell it if he
PBD.
tried. So if he wanted to do a documentary, he would never be able to use those hours in a documentary.
Yes, and again, let me stress that although Steve, who I am personally fond of, but Steve's cover here that he was making a documentary about Epstein is 100% not true. I know this because I was there and am
So
fully
Steve is
aware
lying.
and actually have it on tape of what transpired here, and that was Bannon's effort to help Epstein with his legal problems, and this would be in 2019 when the law was closing in on Epstein, and Bannon's suggestion was that Epstein go on national TV to try to perform a mea culpa or explain or humanize himself in some way, and then
So
Bannon
he was being an
offered to
advisor.
help prepare him. So essentially, what Bannon was doing was media training. He was tutoring Epstein in how to face a hostile interview on a hypothetical 60 minutes.
Got it. So more of a training, a PR, than anything else. So let's talk about your 100 hours that you have with them. How much information is in there that it's bombshell, earth-shattering type of information where the public should know about out of the 100 hours you have with him?
Well, it's a funny aspect of this, and people call me up now, people of significant standing, and say, is there, on the tapes, does Epstein promise Trump young girls, or does Epstein promise Bannon young girls? It's that kind of thing, and I kind of say, I don't know. You've obviously never done interviews with people. I mean, when they ask that kind of thing, these conversations unfold over a long period, and these are conversations like life itself. Epstein is talking about his life. There's lots and lots of details. There's lots of information that would be surprising. I suppose there are, the Daily Mail could go through this and pull out 1,000 headlines that would seem headline worthy. When you listen to these tapes, or when you were present, as I was during these things, you don't have that feeling. You have the feeling that this is incredibly interesting, fascinating, and it exposes a life. So what you get is a life rather than headlines. Although, as I say, I'm sure you could go through this and pull out the sound bites, which would then add up to headlines.
Would the FBI or the DOJ benefit from having access to these 100 hours?
Well, benefit for what purpose? Since Jeffrey Epstein is already dead.
No, not necessarily. We know he's already dead. Just to gather more intel. Would the FBI or the DOJ, if they're trying to get to the bottom of this, would they?
Well, I think it's a question of what they're trying to get to the bottom of. If they are trying to get to the bottom of who Jeffrey Epstein was, about the real nature of Jeffrey Epstein's personality, about Jeffrey Epstein's not only his weaknesses but his strengths. If the FBI and the DOJ were biographers, as I am, they would find it interesting. Since they are not biographers, I think that they would probably be less interested. Certainly, I am.
The FBI's job, different than CIA. CIA's international, foreign. FBI's domestic. Their job is to make sure, families in America are going to be safe. Americans are going to be safe. So anybody that's tied to this, or to even eliminate or address a future next Epstein, they would probably benefit from studying the patterns of how this guy communicates. And if that's the case, has the FBI, has the Department of Justice, have they at all reached out to you since you've had these for 6 years, whether it's under Biden or Obama, to say, or Biden or Trump, to say, hey, Michael, we think we need access to this recording that you have?
Bad data costing you big deals?
No, they haven't, and they probably haven't for a lot of reasons. First, I'm a journalist and a writer, therefore that becomes a complicated thing. I mean, Epstein was a source for what I was doing, so I think that they understand the difficulties there. And then I also think they're probably unclear on they probably have no goals. There is probably no open investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, and of course, to what point he is dead. And there's no, to my knowledge, open investigation of anyone else involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine is obviously has been convicted. I mean, she's been convicted.
Right.
She's
Makes sense.
in jail and is now headed toward a pardon. So I don't think that there is any issue there. So again, crossing these disciplines of someone who has been interested in, someone has material that reflects the full life of this man, and then the FBI and the DOJ, who are not interested in the full life of this man, they're interested in only their highly segmented view of any given person.
Yeah, but not even a door knock, right? You've not even gotten a door knock on them. Hey, Michael, can we see this? You've had nothing. No email, no door knock, no text, no phone call.
Nope.
Okay. And if you were to sell it to an interested party, what would be the range of your asking
Well,
price?
I wouldn't sell it. It's not for sale.
Oh, okay, so you're not selling it. I got it.
No, I'm not a writer. So this is a story that I think is worth telling. As a writer, it's a story that I mean, it's a pretty interesting story for me. So how I tell it and when I tell it, is a kind of an organic and natural process. But
I don't know why I got the impression that you were open to selling it, and you said some people reached out or they didn't, or you were surprised.
No. I mean, I have spoken to many outlets, and but it is about telling this story. It is not about. I would never sell this. I would never. This is an important aspect of being a writer and a journalist. This is my story.
Makes sense.
Not anyone else's story.
I respect it. Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who.
Ouch. So this over here is saying is this what I was looking for?
Don't mistake Donald Trump wanting to have the CIA as him being pro-CIA.
That's a good point.
It could just be pro-capability, because when you're the president, CIA is in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Like, the branch that CIA
He's a
falls
former
under is
spy.
the executive branch. Right. So it's like the toy that sits on the shelf that you play with only when you want to. Whereas if you throw away the toy, you don't ever get the toy. But with CIA comes a whole suite of capabilities.
That's right.
And a whole building of people that can't say no, because without you, they have no purpose or job.
Right.
If anything, the massive attrition that CIA has been experiencing since 2016, when Trump won the election, was when people really started waking up at the agency, started waking up to the fact that we serve the president. We don't serve the American people. We don't serve the democratic process. We serve at the behest of the president, the pleasure of the president. So wherever that person goes, we follow. I think some people didn't like that.
I think most Americans don't understand that. CIA is one of those very, very unusual organizations where serving at the behest of the president actually means something. I remember when I first got hired, there were old timers still talking about a station chief in the Middle East who had been fired by Ronald Reagan because he was living in sin with his girlfriend. That Reagan had made a trip to the Middle East. There was a dinner at the COS's house. The COS's chief of station's house. The chief said, like for you, Mr. President, to meet my girlfriend. Oh, are you visiting? Oh no, Mr. President, I live here. Oh, you're fired. I don't allow my people to live in sin. You can't do that in the rest of the civil service. But at the CIA, we served at the pleasure of the president. And if he doesn't like the cut of your jib or the way you look at him in the meeting, you're out.
So now you understand why someone like Gina Haspel would be a good call.
Whatever.
Because that's a person who does what they're told to do.
Right.
So when a call comes down at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday to get something illegal or potentially illegal done, that's the kind of person who says yes.
I was on Fox News last week on the Jesse Waters show, and he asked me about that specifically. And I said, you know, this is why if Donald Trump wins the presidency again, and if I had the opportunity to tell him one thing, it would be, please don't choose a general or a CIA insider to lead the CIA, because the way those people became generals and became senior intelligence service leaders was by saying, yes, sir. Through their whole careers, yes, sir. What you need is somebody who has the guts to say, Mr. President, that's a terrible idea.
Oh, he's
and let
not
me
going
tell
to
you
go
why.
for that.
And I think
Donald
this
Trump
what
is
we should
not
do
going
instead.
to.
Somebody who's got the guts to tell the president the truth.
That's what Charlie Kirk did.
Because that's not the way you get power in the government.
Exactly
right. And that's what's so difficult. And anybody who's ever served in uniform, anybody who's still serving in uniform, anybody who's ever been in any kind of bureaucratic process,
As long as they pro-Israel.
what they have seen is your new tranche of recruits every year are full of zest and zeal and ideology and passion for what they believe it means to serve the public.
Exactly right.
And then as every year goes by, they are ground down to a more mediocre average. And then the people who are still have burrs on their shoulders, the people who
Former
are still
spy
a little bit
revealed
ornery,
why
either find their way
Trump
out,
CIA
or they
doesn't
get
care
kicked out,
about
or
America.
they're pulled out in some way.
Okay.
And once you get to the senior most levels of decision making, those people have already, like, there's a turning point between like 7 and 12 years where you really have to
so true.
where you really have to make your decision. Am I going to make a life out of this?
So true.
Or am I going to pull parachute and get out of this?
An old timer told me by year 10, you can see who's going to be a leader and who's not. And the ones who aren't are going to leave.
And it has nothing to do with leadership.
No.
It has to do with whether you're going to follow the bureaucratic process. I mean, we call it riding coattails.
Yeah.
We call it having grandfathers.
Having a rabbi.
Yep.
And let me tell you a quick story. And I've told you this story, but it's important and it bears repeating. So when I was still in analysis, this would have been the mid-1990s. The office that I had worked for, the Office of Leadership Analysis, ceased to exist while I was serving overseas.
Under Clinton?
Yes, Bill Clinton. So I came back and I was assigned to the Office of Near Eastern and South Asian Analysis. One of the group chiefs, which was a GS-15, you know, the general service scale goes up to 15, and then above that is the senior intelligence service. One of the GS-15 deputy group chiefs was John Brennan. John was, he was a mid-level nobody, a mid-level functionary.
What year was this?
This was 1996.
96, he was a GS-15.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is actually the point of the story. So there was nothing special about John. He had a BA from Fordham in history. Nothing special about this guy at all. And he worked for a woman named Martha Kessler, and Martha was something special. She was the U.S. government's acknowledged expert on Syria and had written the definitive book on Syria called Syria, Fragile Mosaic of Power. And everybody had to read Martha's book when you got assigned to NISA. So Christmas of 1996, I remember this like it was yesterday. He goes to Martha and he says, Martha, I've been your deputy for whatever it was, 4 years, 5 years. I think I'm ready for the senior intelligence service and I want your blessing to apply for XYZ job. She said, I don't like you. I've never liked you, and you will never be in the senior intelligence service. In fact, you're fired.
Oh, wow.
Same-day delivery to stay connected with my sister during the holidays. She lives...
Will never be in the senior intelligence service. In fact...
Under blackmail. There's the first one. There's volume 2, One Nation Under Blackmail. That's where she focuses on Whitten, on Jeffrey Epstein. She also writes for a number of different publications, but you can catch her at her own site, unlimitedhangout.com. Please welcome Whitney Webb. Hi, Whitney.
Oh, Whitney. Okay.
Thanks for having me back on.
So I'm reading unfortunately, I didn't get an advance copy of the book, so first up today we have a special guest.
Yeah, I like
Webb.
Wendy.
She is a writer, researcher, investigative journalist, and an expert on the Jeffrey Epstein case. Her new book about Epstein case is called One Nation Under Blackmail. There's the first one. There's Volume 2, One Nation Under Blackmail. That's where she focuses on Jeffrey Epstein. She also writes for a number of different publications, but you can catch her at her own site, unlimitedhangout.com. Please welcome Whitney.
Organized
Hi,
crime.
Whitney.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me back on.
So I'm reading now. Unfortunately, I didn't get an advance copy of the book, so I'm going to be just like anybody else in the audience tonight. Like, hey, I'm going to ask questions, and but the description of the book is something I want to read it for people. It says, "One Nation Under Blackmail is a damning indictment of the consequences resulting from the nearly century-old relationship between both U.S. and Israeli intelligence and the organized crime network known as the National Crime Syndicate." Can you is that real? There's a thing called the National Crime Syndicate? This seems like a cartoon.
Yeah, well, no, it is real. So it was a decentralized network of different organized crime groups operating in the United States in the early 20th century. So historically, organized crime in the U.S., most people are probably familiar with it because of Hollywood and whatnot, tend to sort of be an ethnic enclave. So you'd have Irish organized crime, the Jewish mob, the Italian mafia, and so on. So the National Crime Syndicate sort of broke down those silos and brought these different groups together, and that made them a lot more successful.
But that was their name, the National Crime Syndicate?
Yes, yes.
And they didn't have any qualms about, so this is in documents that they were referred to as this?
Yeah. It's definitely not something I made up. That's for sure. So this was basically an outgrowth of something called Murder Inc. and some other things. The main people behind it were Mayor Lansky, I guess representing the Jewish mob there, and then Lucky Luciano of the Italian mafia. And so they basically came together, and in World War II, they formally teamed up with the Office of Naval Intelligence and the Office of Strategic Services, or the OSS, which is the precursor to the CIA. And this was justified as a necessary because it was the war, right? So a wartime necessity justification. But then the war ends, and then, the intelligence apparatus of the U.S. and these mob guys realize they have a lot in common and they work really well together. And so that's why in the 60s, in the 50s, you see a lot of the people involved in assassination stuff for the CIA after it was made. You see a lot of mob guys around, for example, and there's a lot of other examples of them, interacting on and off, over the years that maybe more people are familiar with. But a lot of this involved like the realm of.
Hey, y'all, please hit the like button for me, please. Double tap the face. You just double tap the face of your phone. Just like that. I hit the 3 buttons at the top. The 3 little dots at the top right. And let's get them likes up for me. If not, we can call it a night, baby. Double tap. And I'm only going to ask you one time. Double tap. This is it. If it starts spinning around, I'm not coming back. I'm gone for the night.
Heavily involved in the arming of the Haganah and the precursor to the IDF and all of this. So basically, by the time the state of Israel is created, these alliances are, part of its national security state from the off.
So you've documented literally the organized crime from World War II era coming together with our government.
Yeah.
And working together now, and to coordinate all them together, all the different crime families. There was a thing called the National Crime Syndicate that
Yeah, but they fought Yeah, but they fought with each other. Like there was factionalism, and so like some of these guys teamed up to take out their competition, consolidate power. So I wouldn't say that this group, right, is the same they were back in the 30s and 20s. I mean, a lot has happened over time, but I think I make a really good case in the book that this is where a lot of it started, or you could maybe argue it happened before, specifically in New York City, because you had the Democratic Party, specifically in New York City, become very much entwined with organized crime. This happened in the early 20th century as well with Tammany Hall, which was very much involved with the power apparatus of New York, but they ended up taking over, organized crime ended up taking over the leadership of a lot of unions and later voting precincts, among other things, which allowed them to consolidate a lot of power in New York, specifically in the Democratic Party at first, and of course, you know, later the Republicans as well. But that's part of what what led to Operation Underworld, as it's called, the formal team up between the mob and the Navy, naval intelligence, and the CIA precursor.
There's a name for it? It's called,
it's called Operation Underworld. It's a real thing. You can look it up. The U.S. government waited 60 years to admit it was real, but they had to eventually.
And what did they do? And what was Operation Underworld?
That's where the Office of Naval Intelligence and the precursor to the CIA, the Office of Strategic Services, teamed up with organized crime.
And what specifically what was the service that organized crime could provide that the government couldn't do for themselves?
Yeah, so what I mentioned earlier about the mob and the unions, what they wanted was intelligence from the dock workers, and the dock workers union was controlled by the mob. Yeah, so that's sort of how it started, but it advanced like a lot.
So getting info on the unions is kind of their way to push back against the commies, right?
Well, this is back in World War II, right? So it was all about it was about German saboteurs. It was about the Nazis. But then you see over time that a lot of this same type of behavior is, you know, all sorts of things, including working with organized crime or drug cartels or what have you. In the decades later, you know, like in the 80s, for example, it's all justified by quote unquote anti-communism and stuff like that.
And so why? So I really appreciate you reporting on this. Why is no one else seemingly? I haven't heard anything about this until people told me about your book. So why is no one else or are other people reporting this?
Well, I think it's been written on before, but I don't think it's been the story's been told the same way. I guess I sort of